Please listen carefully.
Welcome back to the Focus Target Podcast. This is your host, Smiley, with me today, Van and Shy. Gentlemen, it's been a while. Did you have a Merry Christmas, I hope?
Yes, indeed.
Yes, a very Merry Christmas.
Yeah,
It was a very busy Merry
your
Christmas.
kids get a bunch of loot, Van.
An absolutely ridiculous amount of loot. Like, they killed the loot goblin. They got more loot than they need. Like, I was seriously talking. I don't know if my kids will ever listen to this podcast, but if they do, they probably won't. However, one plan is to take like half of their gifts and just put them away in a closet or up in like the attic or something, and then regift them to them like on their next birthday in 6 months. They won't remember, but like they have so many gifts, it is absolutely ludicrous.
Oh man,
Yeah, I sound like
my
I'm
parents never
complaining.
did
I'm
that
not.
to me.
I'm very blessed and fortunate to have so many people love our kids. But yeah.
Christmas is a fun time when you have little kids.
What about you, man? How'd Samsonite do on
He
Christmas?
liked it. He loves the Christmas tree. He was like, "Oh, Christmas tree."
All the
That was
lights.
about as we had him open a couple of gifts, and he was just kind of like, "I'm just happy to be around." So he's a happy guy.
Nice.
So yeah, but it was nice. Sarah and I, it's like COVID days, so we, just basically spent it just the two of us. But it was nice. We had a nice time. Had a
Do you
little.
do you do the fresh tree, or do you have a
No, we have a
a
fake one. We have a fake one. We used to do a
gotcha.
fresh tree when I was a kid, like every year, and like I know how much work and how much of a pain that is. And maybe one day when we do have kids that are a little bit older, and for them possibly. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't need it.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a great time with the kids. We actually cut down our own tree for the first time. Not like we went into a
Oh,
forest
really?
or anything, but they have like tree lots that you can
Yes. Where you can
visit and
see.
all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
So we did our own. It was fun.
that is
Yeah.
fun.
Went
What
in your
about you,
neighbor's
Ty?
yard with a chainsaw, and you're like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
I
this
just
tree
found
looks
one.
good."
It looked really good.
Yeah. Joe don't need this tree. It's fine. Don't worry about it. What about
Smiley,
you, Chai?
are
Do
you
you
by
have it?
chance? Oh, sorry.
Sorry? Go
Are
ahead.
you by chance wearing a Christmas gift? Is
I
that I
am.
noticed
Yeah.
your
Yeah. You like this?
traditional avalanche sweater is gone, and you've got a
Oh,
snazzy new
yeah.
jacket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This,
showing off.
oh, what is that?
It's
hold on, wait, it's hard to see.
It's getting keyed out.
My background. There it is.
Nice
Nice.
pants. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sarah got me this for Christmas, so that was nice. And I was telling Shai before the show, I also got a "Ask Me About the Cosmere" long sleeve shirt for you Brandon Sanderson fans out there. So I'm hoping people will see me out in public and ask me about the Cosmere. I would love to just start talking Stormlight or Mistborn with people. But
Oh dear.
what about you, Shai? Do you have a nice Christmas?
Yeah, it was all right. It was low key. So yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to hang out with Loki for Christmas. He sounds like a fun guy.
I don't think I would want to hang out with him, honestly.
Maybe not.
Now, would
Maybe
you
not.
really be hanging out with him? I don't
Maybe
know.
not. Maybe Tom Hiddleston would be a nice like middle ground. All right. So we're back. We've been off for a little bit due to the holidays and due to scheduling things, but we are here for the second half of our Batman: The Dark Knight trilogy podcast. Last time we kind of talked through Batman Begins and kind of got through most of the way through the Dark Knight. So we'll probably start today with any wrap up questions on the Dark Knight, get into the Dark Knight Rises a little bit, and then just do some overall thoughts. But of course, before that, we have a question of the day. We also normally have a NHL segment, but we're going to combine the two today because the NHL has been off since pretty much the whole time we've been off. So the question of the day is, what are your thoughts on the NHL shutdown, and what do you think? I guess I have a couple questions. All right, so to set the stage, the NHL has been shut down for some teams longer than others, but for everybody, at least the last week or so. As it stands, teams are currently being shut down more on an ad hoc basis based on how many people are testing positive for COVID. But it seems like COVID, even amongst a fully vaccinated population of NHL players, is running rampant through the league. And like this new variant just doesn't seem to care that you're vaccinated because everybody seems to be getting it in the NHL. So the first question
And
I
the
have
NFL
is,
too.
but the NFL just doesn't seem to care. They're just like, whatever.
No. Yeah.
Um,
Like, we're almost over. Just push through people.
yeah. Yeah, I don't want to talk about the NFL as Van I'm sure has cause to know. The Raiders ended the Broncos season yesterday, so that was kind of sad. Um,
I was hoping we would
uh,
talk about it.
well, you probably would
I
like
was
to
not
talk about it
hoping
more
we'd
than
talk
me.
about it.
We can talk
I
about it.
would not do that.
We'll see if we have some time at the end. But so
No, clever.
see what I did there? But so what I want to ask about first of all is do you think there's reason to believe that this is going to change, or are we going to be dealing with these basically shutdown situations throughout the regular season? Do we think this is going to impact the viability of the season being played? Like, are they going to have to? Are we looking at potentially another full shutdown, like another bubble situation like we had a couple years ago? And then finally, like, what what are your thoughts on the impact to the competitiveness of it? Like, is this season again going to have an asterisk to say, well, we these teams played with half lineups and AHL lineups because they had so many people out versus this team didn't really get COVID at all, and so they had an unfair advantage. Like, it seems like there's a lot of things in play. So I'm kind of thinking, like, what are your thoughts and just what do you think should be done? Like, what would you like to see the NHL do? They already canceled the Olympics. NHL players will not be going to the Olympics this year because of COVID. But like, what else do you think? And finally, maybe as a one little tie-in, there's also the All Star break this year. Is I believe in Vegas, isn't it? Home
Uh,
for maybe I don't know if that affect. I thought maybe Van might have some thoughts on that if that impacted anything. But let me start with Shy. Shy, what are your thoughts on everything that's been going down? I mean, you are probably the most in touch with the league in general right now. I think because you've really been into a lot of NHL podcasts and things like. What are you hearing? What are you thinking?
My initial thought is this feels like it could be a podcast topic. I feel not a question of the
There's a
day.
lot of
So
questions.
let's
Sorry.
let's try to keep it short.
Yes,
I don't
agreed.
know. I think as a fan, it's rough because like especially the holiday season, some of us have time off. I've had some time off from work, and it's like I'd love to get some, especially with the following a West Coast team. I could stay up later, watch some games which I normally can't watch, and I haven't been able to watch any hockey because they've all been canceled, all the games. But I mean, that being said, obviously I understand the importance of the matter. I'm not holding that against anyone. I think that you got to do what you got to do, and so um, I'm not going to presuppose that I would be able to know a better way to handle the situation. It's extremely complicated, but I think that when you bring up about the competitive advantages, I think I've heard that on podcasts where they've talked about some matchups where some teams have played each other already, where like one team is at a serious disadvantage because they're a COVID protocol list, and it's
Yeah.
like, and maybe the other team wins or whatever, and it's like, is that fair? And like, how do you determine when to like some games are getting postponed, but like they were able to still field enough players because they called up two people from their like the AHL team or whatever, and it's like that's not equivalent necessarily. I don't know. I mean, there's livelihoods at stake, there's money at stake. I mean, this is such a complicated um, issue. So
Van, what are your thoughts?
yeah, I think the just the dynamic and the whole just everything changes so quickly. It's
Every
impossible to
day.
predict, right? What's going
Yeah,
to happen or
every
what's
day.
not going to happen. It sucks that they shut it down specifically for um why I'm upset about it. Not well, in general, the fact that NHL's is shut down sucks, but because the Golden Knights were on a tear, they're 8-2. They actually took the number one spot in the West. I think they're tied, or did they take it with the Ducks? So yeah, yep, they're ahead of the Ducks. They have the same points, but I guess they get it on what's the
Win
decider?
percentage. Usually it's win
Yeah,
percentage.
win percentage. So 20 versus 17. That same
Yeah.
point. So yeah, so they're on the tear, but now they've been halted. Who knows what's gonna happen? I mean, you got to stay safe, right? And when this thing's spreading the way it is, um, yeah, I don't have much to say about it, just because anything we do say about it's gonna be proven wrong in 2 weeks from now, anyway. So I just hope that it leaves as fast as it came. I know it's still new, and as you mentioned, it seems to be infecting everybody all over the place. It's one of the quickest infection rates out of anything, but thankfully, if there is some type of saving grace, it's that it doesn't seem to be as dangerous, although they are all dangerous. This one certainly isn't putting people in the hospital at the same rate as the last one. So maybe if they find out that, hey, people are staying out of the hospital, they're staying healthy, albeit they get sick, we'll continue with protocols, testing, but we can keep playing at a safe rate. They'll get back on the ice. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. Avs were in the similar boat. They'd won, I think, 6 in a row and then like 9 straight at home or something, and up until they had
Yeah.
their weird COVID game where everybody was out and they lost that one, and then they've been off
Seven
since. Yeah.
7-2-1. That's pretty awesome. That's pretty
Yeah,
hot.
yeah, they've been feeling good, but I think it's been so frustrating because having watched the Avs for many years where they weren't very good, that now like the prime of like they've been so great the last couple of years. They have like a legitimate Stanley Cup contending team. They're a lot of times one of the top two favorite in the league to make the Stanley Cup, and they've had to do all this nonsense COVID stuff. And it's like I feel like it's not. It's like why couldn't this have been happening when the Avs were terrible anyway, and it didn't matter. It's like we're missing our window here, and it's unfortunate, but what I would like to see, I think Shy kind of alluded to this a little bit. I really wish that the NHL would put forth some more clear guidelines so it didn't feel so subjective. Where it's like here's going to be the measuring stick. All right, if you have X number of players with a positive test, the game's postponed on either team. The game's postponed. Right? Like let's let everybody know what it is. Let's let everybody know and have kind of the same measuring stick because there's been a lot of talk about that where teams feel like they're having to play where other teams with lesser number of infections are getting canceled. And it's like, well, why do we have to play shorthanded, but they don't? I've seen a number of different teams say that about different situations. So that definitely sucks. I mean, I guess you just hope that, like Van said, they can kind of get it under control. Maybe if the more of the players get the booster, maybe that'll help. I don't know, but it would definitely be a shame if they had to put the whole season on hold like they did last time because that sucked,
Yeah, that
and
was bad.
it
That was
really
bad.
it derailed everything.
The only thing I will say, and it might be inappropriate, certainly selfish, is that that's fewer games without Eichel. So
I don't know though, man.
if
Like
he ever comes back,
I don't think your team can actually field all their players under the salary cap. So
that's a
like
good
I
point.
think they wanted him to be hurt until the
Yeah,
playoffs. I don't
right.
know. It may actually
I
be
think
hurting you
you're
if
right.
the season gets extended a month or two. They may have to make some tough choices.
Yeah.
All right. Any final thoughts on the NHL? Hopefully we'll be back soon. Shy, got something?
Yeah, I guess it's not really. It's more of a speculation or a thought. Like, what does this
Yeah.
look like long term? Like
Yeah.
how does this play out? Like months from now, would they? I mean, I know, like, would they ever cancel the season? Would they extend the season? Like, what if we come to the end of the season and some teams have just played more than others because like
Yeah.
some teams haven't been able to get all their games in? Like,
Well, you may
that would be
remember
very. Yeah.
you may not remember because I don't think you were following as closely yet because the Kraken weren't in it. But the year they did the bubble, that is what happened. Like the Canadian side, their first round, like everybody else was doing first round, and the Canadian side couldn't start because like Vancouver and
Remember
Calgary,
that.
and
I do
like they
remember. I
had to
remember that.
like
Yeah.
because Vancouver missed so many games. It's like we need them to finish at least enough regular season games to find out what the final standings are before that group can play.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think all those things are probably in play. I think it definitely helps that they don't have the Olympic break now because that gives them basically a 2-week stretch that they used to have they had no game scheduled that they can cycle slot some of these in. But the like as you said, the longer it goes and the more they have to cancel, right now they were making a comparison for the Avalanche because the Avs have played fewer games than any other team in the league, just because they had the light early half of the schedule. Right now, if the season ends on time and they play all their made up games, they play like 55 games in 115 days or something, which
Wow.
is like the same rate as like the compressed season, which everybody said was like really crazy. So it's going to be interesting as teams, as you say, as more and more teams lose games, how do you make that up? And do you kick this end of the season out 2 weeks or
Oh,
3 weeks? It's
I'm
hard to
trying to
say.
get us the most up to date information, and the NHL had originally postponed all games till the 27th,
Yep,
and then they postponed them again till the 28th.
yep.
And apparently, from what everything I can tell, the Golden Knights and the LA Kings are still on for tonight. So
There's a
that's a
Yeah,
couple
step in the right
games still
direction.
scheduled tonight. Yeah. I
yeah,
think
That's a step in the
Tampa
right
and
direction, at least.
Montreal are also playing tonight. I think.
yeah. Everything was canceled across the board through yesterday, and then they're doing targeted after that. So the Avs are supposed to play the 29th and the 31st. Those games have both been postponed because both Dallas and the Avs have a number of Avs have a number of people on the back end of the protocol, and the a bunch of new Dallas has just gotten a bunch of new positive tests. So they're like, we're not even having those two games. This is back to back against them. So Avs are done for the year. We'll see when they get back at it. But Right.
All
Well,
right.
let's move along, and next time maybe we'll weigh back in and see where we are in 2 weeks with the NHL if the Avs have even played a game yet. Um,
Such a bizarre time to live in.
it really is, and you wonder if the end's ever even in sight. It just seems like it keeps mutating and varying, and um, I feel like if people would just get their stuff together, it would help. But you can't even blame America on this, which is kind of crazy. But like, I mean, this variant started in Africa. Like, it's not
And
even
the
about
government just threw up their hands recently and said, "Hey, look, guys, there's nothing we could do nationally to legislate this to victory. So you're gonna have
right.
to handle
Yeah.
it at state level."
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and
Well,
who do you even blame? Because people who are getting
well,
vaccinated, like you
there's
just
no
said, like the players who are like people who are getting vaccinated are getting it as anyway, right? So it's
right.
like, I
yeah,
mean,
NFL, NHL, yeah, exactly.
Yep. Yeah, that's why Sarah and I have been pretty locked down because it's just so spready, and we have a little baby that doesn't have any ability to get a vaccine, so
no.
he gets a little bit of antibodies through breast milk, but it's still very scary. So, all right, well, let's move on to happier topics, maybe, because I don't know that Dark
The
Knight
Dark
or Dark
Knight.
Knight Rises are really very happy topics. They're happier than COVID cancellations, at least.
There you
I
go.
think you can put it in perspective. But so yeah, last time we kind of went through the Dark Knight. I think we all agreed that it was really one of the best movies really ever made. Like it's really up there, and rewatching it really confirmed that for me. I remember thinking that when I first watched it. On the rewatch, I felt like it's like wow, what a really great movie it was. Um, any final thoughts on that, or should we just jump right into Dark Knight Rises?
I'm
Take it
ready.
in.
All right, so Dark Knight Rises, I mean, a little bit of a different cast of characters, right? I mean, we have Alfred in it, but not really that much. He kind of disappears halfway through, and you don't see him again. Like even now you got the Catwoman coming into play. You got Bane, who as I don't remember if we mentioned this last time, if it was off the pod, like a voice that just like so for me, you guys, I think maybe had seen these in the past. I watched the original two when they came out, Begins and Dark Knight when they came out. I never actually saw the third one for some reason. Like I don't know why I didn't. Like it's
Hmm.
like it was a movie I always wanted to see and I just never kind of had an occasion to. And then when we bought the trilogy, I was gonna watch all three with Sarah and she watched the first one. She's like, not for me. No more. She's done. And so then I was gonna like, well, I'll just finish watching myself. But I never did until we came around and talked about doing it for the podcast. So like I had seen Bane memes and like I knew who he was. I kind of like that kind of stuff is kind of out there. And like I kind of pictured I guess how I thought he would talk. I feel he was kind of going to be just like Batman with a raspy like oh I'm Bane you know. And then when I first saw him talking, I was like, wait, what? It really threw my expectations for a
Yeah.
loop.
It's Bane. That's my name.
So that was my first takeaway from Dark Knight Rises. What do you guys got, Van?
Um, so I was prepared for said takeaway because I remember reading in development that his voice was extremely difficult for some of the original screening audiences to understand what he was actually saying. So they literally redubbed his voice over the character for the entire movie.
Really?
And so sometimes it sounds yeah, so it used to sound raspier, darker, not necessarily lower tone because it's the same voice,
Right.
but they redubbed it a lot clearer and he's certainly speaking into a high profile microphone and all that fun stuff. So I was not a surprise when I heard that. But I will say the opening scene's fantastic. It really hooks you and gets you into the movie and is a pretty hard introduction into who this new character Bane's going to be. So,
Yeah. The airplane hijacking and everything.
mm-hmm. And
Shai, what
really
about
just
you?
like the
Oh,
cult following he has too, right? Because at the end, when the
yeah.
guy's like about to jump out too, and he's like, "Hold on, brother, they're going to be looking for a body," and he like,
Yeah, it's just
and he
like,
says, "Okay, yep,
When
yeah,
you
the
go."
guy's like religious fervor, right? He's like for the fire and the flame, and he's like exactly, and like
Mhm.
he's like he's just like a master manipulator, like in a way
Mhm.
that the Joker was, but more like calculated, less like silly,
yeah,
more
Yeah.
yeah. All right. I'm gonna start with this. I took too many notes again. I love this film and I love taking notes. And there's just like so many scenes in this that just was like that is so cool and like that just like breaks an expectation I feel like you don't see in films a lot. But I want to start with this because we talked about a little bit about it last time, and we talked about the Joker's plan and how complex it is, that it was too complex to happen. And I also think that Bane's plan was too complex to happen.
Absolutely.
And so, if we're all on the same page here, the scene that bothers me the most, because it is so complex, but it's the training exercise for the police to go into the tunnels. Like, it's like somehow they laced the concrete with explosives around, and I guess, hold on, spoiler alert, I think we did that beginning of the last episode. We're going to be talking details about the film that are spoilers, so
Movie's like 10 years old.
Honestly, you should just stop watching this podcast at this point if you haven't seen it yet, because we're going to be talking about the movie the rest of the way. But, they laced this concrete. There's this this football game going on this time. Somehow they knew the police were going, they had discovered Gordon's bot. There were 12 things that happened at the same time, just perfectly, so that the police would get trapped in the tunnels because of some random occurrence. So then the football stadium would blow up, they could make their big reveal, and I was like, no, there's no way that this would line up like this. There's just too much coincidence. But I love the movie. It's just that.
How did Gordon end up in the water again? Right?
Well,
he went
he
to
chased
pursue.
He chased in the sewers, which that is such a cool scene as well. When he first goes down and they're in the tunnel and that grenade goes off, and you see Gordon kind of because Gordon had become almost I think a desk jockey by the end of Dark Knight Rises. I think we've only ever seen him kind of more as an office guy, but he's got the service revolver in the sewers, and you kind of get this glimpse of him as when he was a true detective probably, and just kind of
days. Yeah.
And I think, could I make one last? I don't want to hog the podcast, but I think Gordon is a big star of this film, and I love the scene later when he's in a hospital and his goons go after him, and I don't remember the actor's name, but the guy who becomes Robin, I guess theoretically, is trying to save him, and walks into the room, and Gordon's taking him out, and puts the gun to. It's always check your corners, rookie, and it's he's a badass. Gordon is he's a guy that doesn't get enough credit, I don't think. For
isn't the actor
his
literally
grit.
Gordon? Gordon Levitt.
Joseph Gordon.
No.
Is it Joseph Gordon-Levitt?
I think so.
That's for the
That's the rookie officer.
Robin. Yeah.
Oh,
Robin.
yeah. Okay.
Robin.
Yeah. We know Gary Oldman's.
Yes, I was gonna say.
I remember him from The Interview. And he had his puppy. Gordon Levitt, and he's just sitting there with a bunch of puppies.
Yeah.
That's a movie that probably deserves a pod at some point. But
It's the pod it we deserve. It's not the one we need right now. That's how it goes.
I like what you did there. Yeah, this is another one where I definitely felt that shy. I don't remember that scene really bothering me, but my problem was less with the plan coming together and then the plan's purpose. I just didn't get it. It's he's going to all this trouble to turn the place over to the city and turn the city over to the people and make it martial law and do all this crazy stuff, but he's just gonna blow it up anywhere at the end. And it's well, what are you teaching people? I don't know. It was just weird, and how all this time passes where the cops are just underground and the people the streets have kind of gone crazy, and I'm just it just felt a little bit bizarre to me. I didn't feel like it was very cohesive. And maybe it's because it was the first time I watched it. I think perhaps the second watch through would both serve to really kind of, as I said, I think with the Dark Knight, let me watch it with a very critical eye and say how realistic is this for these events to coincide and to happen, but also maybe just to understand a little bit better what is he even trying to do here.
Yeah, I think this time being my third or fourth viewing, that part made a lot more sense to me. It actually clicked in a lot more why he did it the way he did. Because you're right, he just blown it up. But he was trying to basically torture Gotham. And by this idea, he kind of talks about it, but by giving them hope when there was none, a false hope, and basically just eating away at their populace for however long, 3-4 months or whatever, where they're living in kind of fear, slowly kind of dying until the end. And I mean, I think it wasn't just they didn't deserve a quick finish. They had to have a slow death to justify their decadence or whatever.
Interesting.
It was a long movie and a lot happened.
A lot of movie.
Yeah,
there were a lot of side stories and all this stuff happening. Yeah.
Yeah,
If we're
well, I
talking about
just
things that we didn't really like,
yeah.
it's not a major part of the movie, but it's supposed to be an important part, probably one of the more important parts. And it's the fact that they like if we're finding things that are hard to believe, I find it hard to believe that they couldn't perfect the autopilot on his equipment on his aircraft. It's like that's the thing you can't do. Have you
Yeah.
seen the type of equipment you have and the ingenuity and in your the genius in your development department, and you can't fix the autopilot, which is a 50-year-old technology, but Bruce Wayne has to be the one to fix it? Come on. I thought that was kind of hokey because then you're like, okay, well, something's gonna happen here because this is too obvious, and this is too much of a plot hole too.
Yeah, I kind of felt that way with The Climb, where it was like really Bane's
That was another
Bane's the
difficult.
only one who could figure out how to get out of there until like no one else could figure like I
Dude,
was
not
always
only that,
like,
like
okay, all
the
right.
dude broke his back. You don't get okay from a broken back and like, well, I can only assume he broke his back, right? He got the freaking knee on the back from Bane when he
And
crushed
that's the
him and all that
assumption.
stuff.
They said his vertebrae was poking out of his back.
Yeah,
So
so 5 months later, you're doing these 15-foot leaps, and with a rope tied around your back, where most of the impact's going to be when you fall on your back again. Like he would have just severed his freaking body in half the first time he fell. Like it was a little ridiculous.
so
Yeah, a
I
little
yeah.
yeah. Go ahead. No, please, Shaw, you go ahead.
I agree with that. I don't agree with Smiley picking on the rope. Like
Really?
I think that's ingenious actually. I think that's such a cool part of the film that like you have this idea that like this kid Bane, I'm guessing, didn't care if he died. He just wanted to get out of there. So he didn't
Yeah.
take a rope. He was just like, I'm either getting out or I'm dying. And so he didn't. And I think like that makes so much sense to me that the way like it's like an impossible leap with like a safety mechanism, like that's weighing you down basically. I think this is a great scene when like that whole like with the chant, and he's going up there without the rope, and he's like at that moment where he's like, I have to do this, and he does it, and I don't know.
I didn't. It's not that I didn't like the scene. I thought it was a cool scene, and it's a cool idea, and it's kind of a little bit of a like a metaphor, right? Like as long
Right.
as
Mm-hmm.
if you're holding something back out of fear, if you fear like you can't truly unlock your full potential, right? Like I'm fine with all that. What bothers me is it's like this pit's been here for 1,000 years, and he's the only person who thought to try it without the rope. He's the only person who
Well,
ever got that desperate. What happened to after him? Like they all saw him do it. They all figured it out. Like why are they all still down there? Like I don't
see,
know.
and I guess it doesn't bother me. I think that like part of
Yeah.
it also is probably physically, like it's not just not the rope. I think
Yeah.
physically you need to be able
You
to
have to
make the
be
leap.
you
So
have to yeah, sure.
not every person in a jail, at least old wiry men like who are not in great shape, are gonna be able to do it. And then also like I don't know. There's people are afraid to die. I mean,
Yeah,
the
oh,
majority
that's
of
fair,
people
it's fair. It
don't
wasn't a
want to
huge
die.
thing to
So,
me, but, like,
all right, all right.
I always just kinda shake my head a little bit when it's like, there's only one person ever did it. Like, alright. And then, like,
Yeah.
as soon as I heard that, I was like, "Well, we know who the second's gonna be. We absolutely know who the second person to do it's gonna be." Like, it's just very predictable to me, but I mean, it was a cool scene, and it like I said, I enjoy the lesson behind it to an extent. Um Alright, what else you got, Shy, on your super laundry list there for
Yeah,
Dark
I
Knight
mean,
Rises?
um, oh man. So in Dark Knight, there's the phrase "the night is always darkest before the dawn," and there's a point in Dark Knight Rises where I feel like the night is darkest. And I just think like there's been an arc throughout the movies, right, of like kind of like impending darkness or whatever things maybe viewing worse, and like the movies end normally on a decent note, but like the next movie gets darker and whatever. And so like I was thinking as I'm watching Dark Knight Rises, there's like a moment when Gordon's been tried and he and the people are being sent out on the ice
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
cracking ice sent to their death. At that moment, they intercut to the shot of Robin trying to send the message down to his teammates saying, "We're about to break you out," and he gets attacked by that commando and is about to get shot. And it's like within like a 2 minute span, it's like everything's just gone to crap. Like everyone's in trouble, and then like Gordon looks up. Or like like the kid, like I don't know, like Gordon looks up and there's that flare that Batman's giving him. He's like, light it, which puts the bat, the flaming Batman on the bridge, and all of a sudden he shows up and saves Robin, and like it's just like that idea of like this quote from the second movie, this "the night is always darkest before the dawn." I feel like really was fulfilled in this movie, and it was like that moment was like the darkest moment where like everything seemed to be going wrong. I don't know. That's just
yeah.
maybe not worth. I don't know if that's worth talking about, but
I I certainly see what you're saying. I definitely agree that that was probably deliberate, and I think it's a cool throwback. But I also think that's kind of how every movie is to an extent. Like most movies, kind of have that arc where it's like things are cool. Oh, here's a problem. Oh, now things have gotten way better. Oh, big trouble, big trouble. And now okay, now we have a resolution. So
Yeah,
it was a familiar pattern, but and like I think most movies you could find a point like that. But I don't think that takes away from what they did here.
yeah.
Van, you got anything?
No, I think you guys said it all.
All right, Van, you got anything on your list for Dark Knight Rises?
Of things we're critical about.
Just in general
Just
on
general
movies,
observations.
good, bad,
No, I mean
otherwise.
I think there's a couple of really cool quotes in there that I want to get to at some point. But
Like
no,
what?
I
Like,
thought it was a
What are
great thing.
what are your favorite
We
quotes?
could just dive in right now.
Yeah, right now.
Oh, okay. It's my favorite thing. Did we actually have that on our? We did not
No,
have it on there.
nope.
So one of my favorite parts is I can't remember. I was just looking up to see who Bane was talking to right now. Can't remember who it was, but Bane was speaking to one of the persons towards the end of the film, and it's when at one point Bane seems like he's working with the evil conglomerate. Then finally he just takes it upon himself, says, "Hey, I'm the main person who's really bad here."
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And but right before that switch happens, he's talking to that guy. Was he one of the politicians? I can't remember. And he's like,
The
"Oh,
guy
you better
who's
be
like,
careful because
yeah,
I'm in charge here." And then
right,
Bane's like best response was ever. He just like everything turns at that moment. And you realize
yeah.
like, oh, this is really Bane's show, like going forward. Like nothing else matters at this point. And he just turns and he looks at me and he goes, "Do you feel like you're in charge?"
he
I
he
was
puts
like,
he puts his
"Oh my
hand he
god,
puts his hand next to his head, like he actually
yeah."
touches him, and the guy
Do you
shuts
feel
up.
in charge?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so good. I love that line. I just love that line, and
Yeah,
it's
Hmm.
that was a good part.
it's a yeah, it's just a good metaphor for I don't know, just people thinking that they're in specific situations when they never were in there in the first place. And he just completely calls them out finally and like, "Hey, look, we're gonna stop playing this charade. Do you feel in charge still?" And then that's you could just see the fear in the guy's eyes, and he's like, "Oh, hold on a second. I thought I was, but nope, this is not happening anymore."
Well, messes with the idea of the power of money, right? Like how much like the guy thought he was in charge because he was paying Bane, whereas Bane
Yeah,
was physically overpowering of this man. And like
right.
our society's built on that conception. That was like that's one of the quote I had written down because I think like that
Nice.
breaks so many perceptions that we have about reality. And like our society works on this idea that like the people in power are in power because of their influence or money or whatever. Whereas like if an apocalypse happened and we went into a post apocalyptic situation, right? Like it's the big, the fast, the it's it's strength is what rules in situations like when it comes down to it.
Strength and cunning, argue.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I think it
Which
also
Bane
was
had both.
he did. It's also very much of a like dog off the leash type of
Mhm.
situation, right? Where it's
Mm.
like you think, as you said, maybe because of money or power or whatever, you think you've got this entity like Bane that's obviously very dangerous, and you think you're holding the leash, and then like when you find out that you're not anymore, how that kind of turns around on him. But yeah, that was an that was a pretty cool scene where, like you said, Van, like you kind of aren't really sure, like is Vane just a puppet of a bigger thing, or like, you're like, oh, okay, now we see what's going on. It kind of turns out then they flipped it back, and he still kind of
Right,
was
because
right. He ended up still
then
being yeah,
chick daughter, Ghoul's
yeah,
daughter, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
that which was also I don't know if it was necessary to put in there, but yeah.
I thought it was well. Let's talk about that because I did think that was kind of cool. I liked that they tied it back to the first movie to remind us that hey, this is a trilogy, and like I always like when we remember our past when we reference the things that happened in previous movies and especially this one like it didn't it felt like there were a couple things that were throwbacks. I mean obviously the whole Harvey Dent lie and propagation of that was obviously a thing from the second one, but like I don't feel like there was a ton that tied this movie back to the first one until you got to the Ra's al Ghul connection.
Mhm.
And like I did think that was neat. And I like how I liked how it was set up, and I mean, you could argue whether they planned it from the beginning or they just used the line, but like he told that story when they were sitting on the ice in the first one. I think they did a flashback to it, right, in the third one, where he's talking about what happened to his wife, like, or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yep.
And it was like, oh, that, like, I never really thought about it past that. Like, that was kind of like a Chekhov's gun, if you're familiar with the term, where like they put this out there, and like they never went back to it in that movie. We never found out any more about his wife. And now here in the third one they do, and it does come to bear fruit. Now I kind of like that kind of stuff, so I thought it was fun. What'd you think, Van? You weren't as a fan of it, is what I heard
Correct.
earlier. What about you, Shy? Where do you fall? Did you like that we kind of had the specter of Ra's al Ghul in that way?
Yeah, I didn't mind it. It's never bothered me a lot. I will say, like, I think it does show. So I think if you look at, to step back really quickly and talk about the Dagger Bane connection and how, like, the thought that money can buy loyalty and how flawed that is. Dagger, like, I think so many good mob films, the reason you have like I will die for you loyalty in like the mafia is because it's like blood, there's this almost like blood loyalty, there's like, or like life debt loyalty, right? Like people owe things to each other, like, and I don't know if that makes sense. It's not money, it's like, you
Right.
know, I'm only alive
Well,
because you saved me,
well,
I'm gonna be your man, like, or whatever.
well, it's a
And
little bit of like the why do mafias always call themselves family, right?
yeah,
It's the
exactly.
family. It's a
Yeah,
mafia family because it's
yeah.
not just you're the point you're making
So I
exactly.
think like you saying it's like the spectrum of Bane. I think that's really cool because like you see where like yeah, like someone can't buy him with money, but he's still human. He still has that loyalty, like he like those like blood ties and the sacrifice ties. I will say, Smiley, when you watch it a second time, there
Yeah.
is some really cool stuff to see once you know that she is the enemy. Like when you see
Oh
her in
yeah.
situations that, and then all of a sudden things happen, and you're like, "That's weird. How did they know?" It's like, "Oh, because she was there." Like she's feeding
Yeah.
information to people, so like that's why they knew that they were in this
That
building and
is
they were able to
cool.
get her. And
Yeah.
like it's one of those movies that going back knowing that information, like, oh yeah, all right, like they thought about this. They
You
didn't just
see
make a weird
things.
twist that didn't like make sense.
And that's what
Um,
I like. I like when things are planned. Like I like when it's not just shoehorned in, or they're just like, oh yeah, I mean, you could find some way to rationalize how they knew this or why they were able to pull this off. Like I like when it's deliberate and you can find those ties. I feel like that's very rewarding. I feel like that's a Christopher Nolan staple, in
yeah.
my opinion. Like that's why I love his movies, I feel like, is because everything's very cohesive, and like, not that they don't take leaps, not that some things don't end up making sense, but for the most part, you can follow the thread and look back and say, "Oh, there's a reason this happened." And when you pick up on it, you're like, "Oh, that's so cool."
That's why the entire Gotham Police Department ran underneath into the sewers.
No, no.
That was
I'm not
sarcasm.
giving. I'm not giving that to Christopher Nolan.
Looking for Commissioner Gordon. I mean, what better
Yeah.
reason to send the whole fleet in?
Oh my god.
Yeah, I mean that. I mean, you have to. Yeah, I'd really have to look and see if is there something that they did to coordinate, like some. Because yeah, I mean that did seem a little bit
No,
like.
because Christopher.
Yeah, that's so.
Remember, Commissioner Gordon wasn't even supposed to be brought to him. He kills his henchmen
No,
because they
no,
brought him to him. Like,
I'm just saying, like, is there some reason that they decided to commit the entire force, that they felt like they needed to do that? Because that does seem like a all your eggs in one basket
well,
kind of gaff.
it's because things. There was something that happened. Like they're realizing that Bane was an imminent threat, and they were like, we need to take this seriously. Like, send
Right.
everybody in. But I don't.
Yeah. Hmm. All right. Should we just kind of shift over to the overall trilogy, or do you have more, Shy? Do you have more you want to get?
Can I make two final thoughts?
Please.
One thing that always bothered me was the ending, when the last flight out with the vehicle. They did the teaser about the autopilot, which whatever. But
Stupid.
like
Absolutely stupid.
the way that's shot is like it just looks like he died, right? Like you see him in the aircraft, they're flying over the bay, he's still in the aircraft, he's flying over the bay, the explosion. It's like, well, okay, what? And it used to bother me a lot. I've seen the movie 3 or 4 times. Every time I watch it, I'm like, I hate this. Like, I don't understand like how this makes sense. You're playing with me, but I realized watching this time, like the movie, his movies are so often like parallel storytelling, whatever. Like it's not maybe specifically linear shot per shot, and like there's a lot of cuts in that
Yes.
scene, in that sequence.
That's what
So
I picked
like
up this last time
so
watching
that's
too.
yeah. So
Same
I'm just
exact
like,
thing.
it doesn't bother me anymore because just because he's showing clips of him flying and clips of the aircraft doesn't mean that the clips of him in the cockpit line up with those clips of the aircraft. And like I'm like, I can accept it. I can accept that he's not in the aircraft. He makes it out. Okay.
I tend to be um not scornful, I should say, of like false death scenes. I really hate it. I
Hmm.
think it's cowardly. It's like if you're gonna go through this whole rigmarole to make us think somebody's dead, they need to die. All right, they need to be dead. And like if you pull it out once in a while for a funny plot, like I thought like the Commissioner Gordon one in the second one was good because it was like he died, but like they didn't. It wasn't like this tragic. Oh no, like it wasn't super drawn out. I was like, oh my god, he died. But then like it was a trick. Okay, that was cool. But like a lot of movies, they cash in so hard, especially at the end of this dramatic death scene, and then oh no, he's okay. Everybody's okay. We have a happy ending. Don't worry about it. And I always hate that. I always think that's dumb. I thought this one, it didn't bother me too much. I actually kind of the saving grace of it was how they did it, right? Like how we got that whole Alfred thing where
Alfred's
he's
Can we?
foreshadowing
sitting.
speech.
Yeah,
Yes, like
we
I
need to
thought
talk
that
about that
was
a little
pretty
bit.
neat.
We need to talk
Yeah,
about that a little bit, and
yeah,
that
go
might
ahead.
be a good ending place for just us talking about the movie because that is
Yeah,
the last scene of the movie, basically. Well, kind
yeah,
of until Robin, but like I don't know. I come from an Italian family. We're emotional. I cry at movies, and like that
yeah.
scene
I do
gets me
too.
every time. That scene gets me every time because you mentioned early on that Alfred kind of
The last
disappears.
scene
I think
or the
the
monologue,
scene no the last
the
scene when at the
foreshadowing scene.
cafe at the cafe no the scene at the
Gotcha. Okay, yeah.
cafe when
Like literally when
Alfred actually
the last
sees
couple
him.
minutes.
Yeah,
Yep.
but just like specifically like he tells this story like Alfred, like Smiley said, Alfred kind of disappears halfway through the film. But I still think he's one of the main characters because, like,
Yeah. Oh yeah, he is.
by him leaving, he's like, "You are self-destructing. I'm not going to watch you do that." And like, it's like his last, it's like Batman's last kind of bastion support. But just he tells a story to Batman early on where he's like, when you were gone during the events of the first movie, and this kind of maybe ties it all another way of tying it all together. When you were gone, I was hoping I'd go every year, I'd go to this cafe in France, order this drink, and I'd always hope that I would see you there with, by yourself, with a wife, whatever, family. And then I would just get up and walk away and know that you were happy. And I never did. And Batman, whatever. We're not going to talk about the end of that one. But then, so the movie basically ends. There's a little bit afterwards. But it basically ends where there's a scene of Alfred sitting down this cafe in Paris, getting his drink, looking around, reading a paper. He looks up, and there's Bruce Wayne with Catgirl. I don't remember her, Selena. I think Selena was her name. But and he just like looks at him. Bruce Wayne nods at Alfred. Alfred kind of. I don't even remember if he really smiles. I think he gives like
He's
small
more just like,
smile, and then
yeah.
and he like folds up his paper, gets up
Yep.
and walks away. And it's just like and I bawl. Like I don't really bawl, but I cry. I tear up for sure because like it's just I think like you said, Smiley. I also hate cheap deaths, and but the and maybe this is bleeding into the thoughts on the trilogy, but like it's a pretty dark trilogy, like in
Hmm.
general, it's very heavy, and so
Yeah.
I don't know that if Batman had died, how that would have sat with me based on how like the whole trilogy had gone, and maybe would have fit in, maybe whatever, maybe would have been fine, but I think it kind of added not levity or humor, but like it added this like emotion, like kind of like maybe like an emotional relief,
I didn't
to end
think
it.
for a second that he was really dead though. Like,
Yeah.
and maybe that's why it didn't ever bother me in the
See,
first
I
place.
did. I guess I
Like,
thought they would kill him, but
and I just don't think you can end a like. I just don't think you can end a Batman movie with him dying. Like, it would take some real cojones to do that. I think it's like,
DC's
yeah,
done some weird stuff. But I guess
they
it's
have. I
more
don't know.
recent than that. I guess.
I
So
would be shocked. I would like that's something that would truly be. I'd just be like, wow,
yeah,
I can't believe that it ended. Like, same thing with like a Superman movie. I can't imagine Superman dying at the end of the movie. Like, that would shock me. And I would be hats off to any director that could pull that off in a good way. But
I mean, well,
whatever.
yeah.
It's a different conversation. Anyway, and the other, I mean, we're starting to get little low on time here. What do we still want to talk about the trilogy? Should we do a quick ranking? I think we kind of did. We touched on that a little bit last time. Um, but Van, you want to rank them?
Yeah. From most favorite to
Yeah, yeah.
least favorite,
Num-
but still
number
really good.
number one
Yeah.
being the best. Yeah.
Yeah. Number one. So I mean, it's 231. I don't think it's going to be a surprise.
Two, three,
Mhm.
one. You go. Okay. What about you, Shy?
And this is I think this is impossible. I don't like I like how Van
Gotta
said
do
it.
it.
What's your least one that's still good? Because I think they're all
Yeah.
great. Batman
They can
Begins
all
is
be
my
good.
Batman Begins is my least favorite. I don't. 2 and 3 are probably.
Neck
I
and
mean
neck for you.
I want to say neck and neck, but I think the problem is when I have to say like one of my
Same
favorite
choice.
films of every when like lists of favorite films for the past decade come up, I don't ever think of Dark Knight Rises until I watch it. Like when I watch it, it's like, oh yeah, this is really good and it's great. But the one that I always think of is The Dark Knight. I mean, The Dark Knight is just an incredible film. So I gotta go 2, 3, 1 as well. But like two and
Okay.
three are they're there.
Yeah.
They're just like
Yeah.
I don't know.
I agree. I think they're in their own league, and one is
I,
still great, but I think 2 and 3 are in their own league.
So I'm gonna differ from you guys. I'll
Interesting.
agree with number two, and it's to be fair, I have only seen the third one once, and maybe that's part of it. Maybe if I give the third one a couple more watch throughs, maybe it'll grow on me some more. But I definitely would put two, then one, and then a significant gap between
Mm,
one and three. I thought, well, I always loved one, even before the other. I realized it was a
that's fair.
trilogy.
Yeah.
One I thought was so good, and Liam Neeson is my boy, Qui-Gon, represent.
Yeah.
Um, and like I
Well, he
think
comes
he's
back
so
as a
great in that
ghost
one.
in part two.
He does, which I always wanted him to come back as a ghost in Star Wars, and he never did. So isn't that weird? Like,
Yeah.
where's the Force Ghost? Qui-Gon. Yeah, yeah. Hey, listen, we got an Obi-Wan series coming up. You never
Right.
know.
You know
Could
what?
be
Oh
all
man, never
Darth
mind.
Maul's still
Sorry.
around allegedly. And that was in the
fair
same
enough.
literal fight. So
It's literal. Shy.
I mean,
He's literal.
this is slightly off topic, but it's worth. I feel like it's worth mentioning. Have you guys been following the Book of Boba Fett?
It comes
no.
out tomorrow, doesn't it?
Is it
First
tomorrow
one
or is it
tomorrow. Yeah,
today?
tomorrow. Maybe tonight. It's the 29th is the date.
All right, then tomorrow. All right, cool.
But it may release at midnight. I don't know how
Maybe,
those
maybe.
Disney
I don't know.
Plus things work.
Yeah, sorry.
9 p.m. Pacific.
Oh, okay. Tonight?
Yeah.
No,
So
I'm
mid
saying if it releases at
Oh,
midnight.
midnight.
Midnight Pacific.
So maybe it would be today for some of us. I'm gonna
So,
watch it. I'm looking forward
Smiley,
to it.
a
Yeah.
quick anecdote. The first time I saw Dark Knight Rises, I would have ranked them the same way. And part of the reason, I think I wasn't super hyped by it the first time I saw it, but like when it came out, me and some friends went to a triple header in an IMAX theater where they showed them back to back to back, and that was
Oh
my
my
first time
god.
seeing Dark Knight Rises, which was the third movie in like an 8-hour stretch in this theater, and like I
Yeah.
was just not happy. I was not like I've never done that since. Like as like a 22-year-old, I'm like, this is gonna me and my buddies are all like, this is gonna be the best thing ever, and at the end, I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm never doing 8 movies in a
That's
movie
so
theater again.
oh,
That was horrible.
oh my god.
So,
12:01 a.m. Pacific and
oh man,
Oh,
3:01 a.m.
it's
Eastern.
they've been
oh,
doing that lately, I've
I
noticed.
know
They've
it's
made
bull
the
crap.
midnight
I
release
liked it when it was
Pacific time.
midnight New York because
Like
I always got crap at 9
that's
p.m., which
right.
is fantastic.
It's called there's so much East Coast bias. This is one of the kickbacks to the people to the West. Come on,
Yeah,
people.
but there's no bias this time because it's 3 a.m.
it
Eastern,
screws both.
12
Yeah,
Yeah,
a.m. So
everybody's
it's
yeah,
a simul release across the
I
whole
know.
yeah.
country.
I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Midnight
We need
Eastern. Come
some
on.
midnight UCT or whatever.
All right, so trying to
Yeah.
bring us back to our
Yeah,
topic. The last thing I have
sorry.
to say is just the amazing
Yeah.
quote, and it's we're kind of out of order here, but whatever. And it's I mean it's been said a million times. Everybody knows it by now. But you merely adopted the dark. I was born in it, molded by it. When he was really trying to say, "Hey,
Yeah.
look, Batman, you think you're a badass? You don't know anything about me. Let me tell you a little bit about me, Mister Pretender, sir." And then he
Yeah,
goes on to this nice little
Yeah.
speech, and I thought that was pretty emotional, pretty impactful.
yeah.
Yeah. That's definitely a famous one. A memeable one, if you will.
It's been memed to
Yeah.
hell, yeah. But yeah, that's it. Overall, I think it's a fantastic trilogy, one of my favorite trilogies of all time. I put it above the Matrix even. Um,
Really?
which I imagine we probably have a Matrixy podcast coming up
Yeah.
soon,
What's the
but
status on Matrix 4 with you guys? Seen it.
we're gonna watch it soon.
Hopefully tomorrow. I'm hoping to watch it tomorrow.
Yeah, same.
So, all right. So, to give a little preview to the podcast people when we get our podcast back going, I think we'll do disc in the drive next time. Probably. I think we've all got some discs burning our drive up a little bit. I know Shy and I do. Haven't talked to Van about that, but probably we'll do a nice disc in the drive episode. And then I think you're right. I think probably Matrix 4 has to be next. So you guys got a
Or
couple
Boba
weeks.
Fett. I mean, there's a lot going on right now.
There's a lot going on right now. It's true.
Yeah.
But and we probably should give at least a brief Final Fantasy update, even though it's going to be disappointing to some
Here we
people.
go.
Um,
It'll be the Smiley show. know advancement. I'm
Well, I
sure I
said
can't.
two.
I can't
That's
say
why I
that.
said
Go
two.
on.
We want to talk at all about the actors and actresses that Did we want to touch on Heath Ledger as the Joker?
I thought we did that.
We kind of did. Maybe we did enough in the
I think
last
we
one.
did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Point.
maybe we did.
Um, Thoughts on Christian Bale as Batman? There's been a lot of Batmans through time.
I Yeah, I agree he's a good Batman, but like he has a very unique lisp and an upper lip. Like nobody could freaking tell that Bruce Wayne was Batman throughout the entirety of the films. Like that's absolutely ludicrous. Like I don't know. I
I
don't know.
think I think that's a common argument with most mass superheroes, where it's just, I mean, you always get the Superman
Right, but
argument
some like
that like Clark Kent takes off his
yeah,
glasses and nobody can figure that shit out, right? But
right.
But how are they going to prove
Yeah,
it?
but
Like you're saying, someone's going to like take photos of the police, be like, "Look at his
dude,
lips," and they're like,
I guarantee if
You're
that was
right.
Batman today, there
We're
would
gonna
be a
arrest him."
subreddit with 8 million photos of
Oh,
side by sides of upper lips.
but how are they going
And
to
yeah,
prove
like
it? How are they going to prove I
but
don't know that you can
you don't
map
need
someone's
you don't need
lips. I
but you
mean,
don't why do you need to prove it? Like if it becomes common knowledge, it's like
yeah,
everybody believes it. Like you don't need to prove
right.
it. Like
But then
people
when you do have it into the metaverse,
yeah.
not a nod to Facebook at all. But when
yeah.
you have it in the metaverse, and I hate that he changed the whole thing to meta, because now every time everybody says meta, they think of Facebook.
Yeah.
Anyway, little rant of my own. If you put it out there in the metaverse, imagine how many times like people are going to be like, okay, Batman's here. Does anybody have eyes on Bruce Wayne? Like once they start making those connections and you have the whole internet coming down on him together, dude, there's no way he'd be able to keep his
And
secrecy.
that's the thing though, is I think masked superheroes, like I mean, that came about in like the 40s or 50s where that got really big,
Yeah.
whenever that was. Like they don't really make sense today. Because I mean, think about like to your point, if somebody came out as like a mystery man, like not only would do people have the technology and the phones and the pictures and the internet to be able to find that out, but like there'd be an obsession with it. Like it seems like not only do they not pick up who Batman is? Like, nobody seems to care. Like, can you imagine if there was, like, a Batman? Like, people would be going crazy trying to figure it out. There'd be theories, there'd be discussion, like, people wouldn't let that go. And, like, in these movies, they're just like, "Yeah, nobody knows who he is." Yeah, and, yeah.
That's
He's
strange.
I
he's a
mean,
strange guy, like,
Want to get a
nobody
beer?
knows. Nobody
it's
knows.
it's a movie. I mean, they
Yeah,
can't. It's
I
a
know.
2 hour movie. They can't show every aspect
Okay,
of like.
mister. All
There's
the
that
police can't go under in a sewer at once.
there's a reference. Oh my gosh! There's a reference
It's
in the second one where it's like, who's your suspect? And he like throws this thing of trash. It's like there's a little sign that says like Elvis, Bigfoot, whatever. It's not like they're not trying to figure out who Batman is. People are trying to figure him out. The police are trying to figure him out. People are trying to
not
figure him out.
not
Like
they're not
I
trying
don't.
as hard as they would in real
What?
life. And that's okay.
Whatever.
I mean, it's a
Whatever.
movie. You
All
need
right.
that.
All right.
Like you said, it doesn't make sense to spend a lot of time on that for the sake of the movie. Doesn't add anything to the movie. But in reality, like I agree with Fan. Like he'd be unmasked in a day, and like maybe not like conclusively proven, but like everybody be like, oh yeah, that's totally Bruce Wayne. Yeah, I will say for Christian
Last
Bale's
point.
portion,
So
I didn't. Oh, go ahead. Who wants to go?
No,
Who wants it
no,
most?
you go because you're still on this tangent. I was
Yeah.
gonna take it somewhere else.
No, I was gonna go back to the original question about what I thought was Christian Bale. So if anybody has
Yeah,
anything
I'm
more,
going away from Christian Bale. I'm going to somebody else altogether. So
I
take it
just
away.
want to say,
I think you guys are giving the internet too much credit. I just want to say that. Like, think
There's
of
no
so
way, dude.
so as a movie audience, knowing the secret, we're like, oh yeah, Christian Bale's Batman, Bruce Wayne's Batman, whatever. Like, remember, Bruce Wayne is a spoiled kid who's running his daddy's corporation, playing with models and driving a sports car. Like, so you're saying that like a masked and Cape Crusaders running around, and everybody's like, oh, we gotta get on Reddit. His lips look like.
Yes.
I'm trying to think
What
of like
I'm
who's.
saying 100% definitively is if Mark Zuckerberg put on
Yeah,
the same
yeah,
fucking
that's
Batman mask,
That's Mark
they would know-
Zuckerberg's lips. I mean,
They
no.
would
I
know
think
exactly
you'll
what
be
it
able to
is.
tell. Exactly. I just don't think the mask
100%.
covers that much. Yeah, I'm on Team Fan with this one. Like,
No.
I think it's
Like they would be
unlikely as
checking
could be.
birthmarks and dimple like
Yeah,
pointage and like oh my god, there'd be so many
people
analysis. It'd be
people
crazy
would lose their shit on that absolutely,
instantly.
and you would just draw the connection. You'd be like, oh my god, yeah, this dude has the money, he has the free time, like he could totally be doing this, and like never would have expected it of him, but there you have it. Like, yeah, I'm 100% with you on
I,
Van.
I,
I
I,
am
I don't
shocked,
agree.
Shy,
I don't
that you
agree.
do
Sorry.
not have that much faith in the internet to figure these things out. That is bizarre to me.
Yeah. No, I think that no, my thing is that we have pre-existing knowledge, and so we're giving more credit where credit isn't due. But
Wouldn't that be an interesting movie where there's a superhero like a Batman movie where you don't actually know who Batman is?
I like
Where
it.
like we're like or like no,
I
it can't be
like it.
Batman because you know Batman's Bruce Wayne, but
it's an
like
Right.
interactive experience.
yeah,
Basically, you're
where it's
guessing
like
who
yeah,
the
and you
Just like
actually
the
have
city.
a number of people who
Yeah. I
maybe it
think it's
could
called
be.
Scooby Doo.
maybe
And
it's a video.
they have a
Maybe it's
lot
a
of
video
episodes.
game. Maybe the point of the video game is to discover who
Ooh.
this masked vigilante is.
Yeah,
And
and
Let's
I
get
wonder
Z on the horn. Let's get Ari as the code, and I think we're good.
and we'll build our own version of Reddit so that
We gotta get Llama.
all the players can get together on this like digital
Yes.
sub community to like figure it out together.
we're
It's a
going
good thing we're
down a
not
big
broadcasting this to the whole entire world. Our
yes.
idea.
Okay.
That's just a great idea.
We do not have this copyrighted, so if somebody wants to take it, go ahead. It's too late for
All
us.
right. Last
Except
Um,
point.
EA, you're not allowed to take
He
this.
is
It's a good idea.
yeah,
all
or
right,
Microsoft.
can I make my point real quick? I just wanted to answer the question about Christian Bale's Batman.
Or
I did
Xbox.
too. I haven't had a chance to talk about Christian Bale as Batman either.
We're out of time. How do we always go over? Because we spent so much time talking about making video games. Um, I thought he was a great Bruce Wayne. I thought he
Yes.
was as Bruce Wayne of a
Mm,
Bruce Wayne as could be.
yeah,
I
Love it.
didn't think he was the Batmaniest Batman.
Perfect.
He was okay.
I
He was
agree.
fine as
yeah.
Batman. Liked him more as Bruce Wayne. Wouldn't it be cool if you did a Batman movie and you had two separate actors, one is Bruce Wayne and one is Batman,
No,
and then you
That's
didn't
brilliant.
know, you
that's a
didn't
horrible.
That's
actually know.
brilliant.
That's a
I don't,
horrible
I
idea.
don't, I don't know.
No,
Maybe
it's
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 a horrible idea.
brilliant.
Might be a
It
horrible
is
idea.
brilliant.
Somewhere in between.
Like a
Okay.
black Batman and a white Bruce Wayne. That'd be
That would
awesome.
be cool. That would throw people. That'd
No, I
really
think that's that's stereotypical. It's got to be a black Bruce Wayne and a white Batman. Come on,
True.
man. You can't have
Ooh, I like it.
the black guy wearing a black
Now you
suit. I
got
mean,
it.
that's just not. Yeah.
Dude,
yeah,
we can figure
no,
this out together. All right, my last point that I have, and it's a very, very short point, is he was way too trusting of Catgirl. I'm gonna use it. I know it's Catwoman, but I loved how you said Catgirl earlier, and I'm sticking with it. He was just way too trusting. She burned him
Yeah.
so many times,
well,
and then he
Yeah.
ends
it
up
wasn't
going
even it
off and
wasn't even
allegedly
trusting.
marrying her. Like
It wasn't really even trusting. It was more like
getting
unsh
bamboozled.
unshakable conviction that
Yeah,
she was really good no matter what. Like
right.
that, like deep down, there's a good person there, and even though you're gonna keep screwing me over, I'm just gonna keep
Yeah.
I guess trusting is the right word. I'm gonna keep counting on you until you do the right thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, do you feel like her conversion there at the end to the light side
I don't know if I
was
believe it.
believable?
Even today, I don't know if I believe it. So I'm still on the fence. I
I think
think
that's fair.
yeah.
It's a fair criticism. What do you think, Jai?
I mean, I like it. I don't know. I think that it's a good sign of someone who like doesn't think they have any chances left, and so they've kind of just like given in to like the degeneracy or the I don't know, the
I like
darker
it.
side of life, and like someone puts their faith in them, like, and they're like, at first they're like, I don't deserve this. I'm gonna keep being a dick or whatever, because like you kind of see the transformation from her. Like she starts off as like just a callous criminal, and he starts like trusting her, and she's like it's almost like she's doubting herself or doubting him or wants him to not believe in her. And I think at the end he kind of breaks through where like I mean I don't know. I think it's very
Basically
real.
the
I think it's very
whole-
real actually.
That's basically the whole plot of Raya, the Last Dragon. If you haven't seen it on Disney, it's a great movie, great kids film.
Shai, did you want to talk about your thoughts on Christian Bale? I don't think we have.
You summed it up perfectly. He's a great Bruce Wayne. Okay, Batman. I really love how Dark Knight Rises started out. I kind of feel like we've missed the ball a little bit by not talking about kind of
Him like
really
hiding as a recluse.
yeah, and like how like he's kind of the underdog of the film. Like Dark Knight, he's kind of the badass to a certain extent, like physical badass, and indomitable, whatever. And like this one's kind of like him not realizing his limits, being crushed, and having to kind of pull back up, and then like rely on others. I think that's really cool. There's a lot of teamwork involved in this film. He needs a lot of help, and he's willing to accept it. At the end, and they all work together. But
Except when he made the impossible jump, he didn't need anybody's help there. He just made it.
someone had to tell him. Well, someone had to tell him to do it. I mean, someone had to say you don't. Yeah.
Don't use the rope. All right, gentlemen. Any final thoughts before we get out of here? It's a good podcast. I think we did well.
Casting. So we only talked about Heath Ledger and Christian Bale, but the casting. We mentioned this, I think, at the beginning, at the very first podcast. The casting is just on point. Like so many good
fantastic.
characters and so many good roles. Morgan Freeman plays such a good character. Michael Caine. I
Michael.
don't know.
Yeah.
Those two guys especially. Like, is there anything they're not good in though? Like, they're just masters of their craft. I love Michael Caine. I love Morgan Freeman. I think they're both awesome in like everything I've ever seen them in. To be honest, I do want to. Oh, go ahead. You got something, Van?
No, I was just giving you a thumbs up to take us out of here.
I was just gonna say, I love that he banged the bad chick without realizing it instead of Cat, because I kind of thought he was gonna get with Catwoman earlier, and then he ends up getting with Ra's al Ghul's daughter instead. And like, I don't know, I like that. That was a nice twist where like he gets with her, and then it turns out she's the bad guy, and he's like, oh, what have I done? I thought it was dope.
Do you think she's pregnant?
Maybe Ra's al Ghul and Batman will have a common descendant.
I'm
I
writing
mean,
that
Well,
movie.
wait,
she
did she die?
died. She died. So like, it doesn't matter.
I can't remember if she died or not.
Yeah, she
Do you think
dies
they
in
saved
the.
her embryo?
When did she die?
She's like dying. She's like one of the cheesiest death scenes of all the movies. She's like in the cab of that vehicle that had the nuke in it. She's like looking at him and like, as
Oh,
she's
yeah.
dying, she's like, you know, like,
You can't stop this.
yeah, yeah.
Penguin?
Oh, dude, I want Danny DeVito back as the Penguin.
Yeah.
Danny DeVito, another guy who's never been in anything that I haven't liked, because he's amazing. All right,
All right, final question for you guys, really quickly. Well, no, maybe this will be question of the day. Question of the day for next podcast. Never mind. I have a good question.
like it.
What's the
Okay.
question of the day?
Question of the day
All
for the next podcast. We'll
All
look
right,
forward to that.
all
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any feedback for us, if you'd like to talk about Batman, any of the Batman movies, if you want to talk to us further about licensing our idea for a video game where you don't know who the masked
If you
hero
need
is,
a
and you figure it
consultant?
out,
Yeah.
yeah, like let us know about it. We're on Twitter at Focus Target. We have a YouTube channel, Focus Target Podcast, where all of our previous podcasts and some of the side stuff we've done are. I don't think any of us have been streaming much recently, but some of our streams are there. We've got an email. Best way to reach us, focustargetpodcast@gmail.com. And of course, we are broadcasting this live on Switch. We do it usually every other Tuesday around this time. So you can try and catch us live. That's twitch.tv/Focus Target Podcast. So for Smiley Van and wait, that's not how we do it. Thanks for being with us on. It's been a long time since we've done podcasts. I'm sorry. For the Focus Target Podcast, I'm your host, Smiley.
This is Shy.
I'm Van. As always, cover us, Porkins. We're out.